You're listening to me, Shazia Wan, on the BBC's Asian Network. Now, this morning on The Big Debate, I'm asking, is astrology having a negative impact on people's lives? Do you rely on it day to day? Would you not marry somebody that was maybe the wrong star sign or the perceived wrong star sign to you? Or do you think that this is all a load of nonsense and then we should just forget about the 12 star signs? You can call me on 03459 440 445 or text me on 81869. I've got a guest joining me, Anisha Bhavnani, who is a student at Warwick University. Good morning, Anisha. Welcome to The Big Debate.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, do you think astrology has a negative impact on people's lives? You've already heard that WhatsApp that I read out earlier this morning where, you know, the person said it was an anonymous one and it said astrology is a load of rubbish. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do, actually. I can't see it having a positive impact on anyone because if you're so dependent on something that you have no control over, then you just don't have control over your life anymore because everything is being decided by star signs and by people who are not really part of your life, like by saints who believe they know these things. So, yeah, I don't really see it having a positive impact. I mean, and I've heard so many... Like, to me, I'm sorry, but they sound really ridiculous to me. I had a friend who broke down her bathroom and erected a temple there because apparently it was in the right direction. And it was a very, spiritual place. So she broke down her bathroom and created a temple. I feel like, because astrology is used in almost like every area of life for a lot of people, like whether it's like building your house or finding the right person. So I don't see it having a positive impact.
So these reports out of Sri Lanka that the Sri Lankan president, Maithripala Sirisena, has had an astrologer arrested for predicting his death. Do you think that's just going crazy, or do you think he did the right thing?
I'm really not sure because, on one hand, a lot of people can say anything about anyone and predict anything out of the blue, but then the police can't clamp down over everybody and say, wait, you can't say this, I'm going to arrest you, I'm going to arrest this. But seeing the large influence he has in Sri Lanka, and apparently he was accused of something else as well, of I think attempting to assassinate Rajiv Gandhi when he came to Sri Lanka. I'm not sure. So I think seeing the kind of impact, the influence that he has, probably since I'm so far away from that, I can't really judge. But I do think you can't arrest anyone and everyone who says anything about it, because then is the police really doing their job? If they're actually focusing on things that anyone says.
Okay, Anisha, stay with us. I'd like to bring in Raju Pandya. Welcome to The Big Debate, Raju.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, you're a Hindu priest, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Now, you believe in astrology, obviously. Do you think that the Sri Lankan president did the right thing in having...
a major role in our way of life, yes.
Do you think the Sri Lankan president did the right thing in having this astrologer arrested for predicting his death?
I don't know. Whether she believes in astrology so much that she got scared and tried to shut him up, or whether she just arrested him for the sake of causing a nuisance. I don't know.
So the president, Maithripala Sirisena, is a man. So we're just to add that in. So he had this astrologer arrested.
Well, I wonder if she would have arrested him if it had predicted the death of one of her cabinet ministers or the deputy prime minister. What I'm saying is that because it affected her, she got a bit emotional, I think, and had him arrested for causing this kind of instability, that if the press is going to die, what's going to happen to the country? And it could cause unrest in the country.
Let me ask you, Raju, do you have people coming to you every day asking about things like should they marry the partner that they've got? How should they name their children? Can you tell me a bit about the people that come and see you and what they're asking?
Right. Let me just explain about the various duties of a priest, a Brahmin priest. Yeah. First of all, there are the karmakandis who carry out the religious ceremonies. Number two, they're priests who carry out the duties within the temple of the scriptures. Number three, the people who are astrologers. Number four, who are teachers at places like Banaras and Kashi. And number five, who carry out all the preaching of going out in the community and spreading the word. So I myself and the priest who carry out the Karmakandi, they have to go to another priest, an astrologer, to give them the date of birth, right, and the time of birth, to try and find out if they're marrying the right person or if they're marrying at the right time, whatever. I can't do that, right? But the thing is, how it's predicted is so critical mathematically that only when you see the child's head come out of the womb, right, that the timing come into place. But nowadays in the hospitals, they do not predict the correct time. So all these Chandam Kundlis and Janmaksha don't really play a major role in a person's prediction of who they should marry or when they should marry.
Raju, could I ask you, if astrology had said you weren't compatible with your wife, would you have not married her?
I think in the old days, yes, that would have happened. Definitely. My parents would have decided and I would not have married. But in this day and age, people actually are in love and they introduce themselves to each other's parents. So the decision's already made. So I don't think astrology plays as much role in people's life. They just leave it to luck and to God.
Do you think that's the right thing to do?
In many ways, yes. In many ways, yes, because they don't marry Hindus to Hindu. They marry people of different religion, different culture, and what we believe is not exactly the same as what the other culture believes. So sometimes there is conflict, and that's why young people decide that whatever's going to happen happens for the best.
You know, I've read a lot of reports over the years, and of course this is speculation because people haven't confirmed this themselves, that a lot of world leaders do consult astrologers.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. And these are not just people in India. These are people all over the world, right? I know that Jimmy Carter used to have a thread tied on his right wrist. I know that Obama used to carry an idol of Hanuman in his pocket. I know that Golda Meir used to be very suspicious and used to have astrology done. And all these Western leaders and people from India and any part of the country, they actually believe so strongly that people like Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi wouldn't even set the foot out of the house until they had astrologers done.
Is that a healthy way to live, though?
Absolutely not. It's not. I think sometimes it's nice to have mysterious in one's life, mysteries, adventures. You know, if you try and sort of live on a tightrope and scared about what you're going to do, where you're going to go, who you're going to meet, then I don't think life is that much fun. You're right.
Raju, stay with me. I want to bring in Parag Bhagava, and Parag is from the Suman Marriage Bureau. Good morning. Welcome to the big debate, Parag.
Good morning, Charles. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, what do you think? Is astrology having a negative impact on people's lives, or do we really need to consult it when we're looking for love?
Okay, I mean, first of all, astrology can work, but I think a lot of it depends upon whom you're approaching and how well acquainted they are with the subject of astrology. We come across a lot of situations where people leave potentially good matches simply because stars have not met. Now, I know from very close experience more than one time, a number of times, where I've seen cases where two potential candidates' stars are matching very, very well, and yet those marriages have taken place and then they've broken up. I've also seen cases where people have got married without stars being matched up, and they have long marriages, and then just for the fun of it or the sake of it, they may later on have their stars looked at and they're told, no, this marriage is not compatible. So I think what happens with astrology is that quite often it's vulnerable people who will start to delve into the area of astrology. And there are genuine astrologers and there are those who are self-taught and are just doing it as a money-making exercise and will exploit individuals of hundreds and even thousands of pounds. We had a young lady working for us once, 21-year-old, She was married to an arranged marriage to a chap who was 40. He didn't want anything to do with her. She was absolutely besotted with him. And every other week she spent hundreds of pounds going to different astrologers and even mathematicians who claimed to be astrologers. Now, astrology is based around maths, but I think it doesn't tell you the future as such. It's an interpretation of the individual who's actually conducting the astrology. The other thing is there's a lot of misunderstanding around astrology. You may have heard of this saying that this person has what we call Mangal dosh or is Manglik, which I think, if I'm correct, is a certain star is not in the right place for marriage. And causes an incompatibility. So many people think that, because our son or daughter has Mangal dosh or is Manglik, he or she can only marry somebody of the same, having that same particular feature in their horoscope, which is again untrue. And a misunderstanding within astrology, the whole background of astrology. If you are Manglik and you meet somebody who has a certain star in a certain place, that can actually neutralize the effect of that Mangal dosh. So there's a lot of misunderstanding around the whole area. And if people are vulnerable, children are getting older, parents are getting worried, they will start approaching astrologers. And if an astrologer says, you will get married in 3 years from now, so in 3 years from now, if you meet somebody, you immediately think, right, that's it now, it's time to get married, so this is the right person, and you'll go ahead with that marriage, and that person may not be the right one for you.
Parag, have you ever consulted an astrologer yourself?
I have indeed, yes, I have. When I was young, I actually got married at the age of 23, and I was told I shouldn't marry till I was 27. A week before I turned 27, I separated, and that marriage ended up in a divorce. Ironic being the business I am, but that's the fact. And for a while, I followed that astrologer, and it was making me take decisions that I perhaps would not have otherwise done.
So there's a bit of truth in that case. So you said for a while you have followed that astrologer. What made you stop?
Well, I just felt that I was taking decisions that I would not have otherwise made. Then I had to think logically from my heart rather than my mind, and think, this is what I want to do. Why am I letting this person make me think that I shouldn't do it?
Parag, I've got to ask, what were you doing that you didn't want to do? You've got to tell us.
Well, I met somebody else, and I was told that no, it's not going to work out. But my gut feeling was yes, it was, and our stars matched very well. But there were issues surrounding the whole thing. But yes, it did work out, and we're together now for 18 years this month.
Congratulations, celebrating an anniversary by and not listening to your.
Because it was a simple thing. Once I went out, I was going to buy a car. And a friend of mine said to me, have you consulted an astrologer? Now, when somebody puts doubt in your mind, then you want to do something about it. So he suddenly put a doubt in my mind, is it good for me to buy this Volkswagen or not? When I spoke to the astrologer, he said, no, the letter V is not good for you. You should go for an A or an M or an S. Go for a Skoda. And she even mentioned that the model I should buy, but so then I changed my car rather than buying the Volkswagen.
Maybe she was on commission for Skoda, who knows?
Well, who knows? But we get people coming to us, introduce a boy, but his name mustn't begin with S or V. Which is very difficult because lots of boys' names begin with S and V, and potential candidates are being missed out simply because they've been told that the letter S or V doesn't go well with your daughter.
Would you ever go back to those parents running the marriage bureau and say, look, do you really want to rule out great matches because the letter of their first name isn't perceived to be right? Well, or do you just abide by their wishes?
I would like to, but I've got to go by their wishes, because tomorrow if something was to go wrong, then they would turn around and say, well, you told us this and, this is what's happened. So there's no getting around that. I have got people that want to match stars first. So, rather than meeting the person first, I say, look, match the stars and then be sure that you want to proceed with this introduction. Because we've had cases where people have met, they're getting on very, very well, and then suddenly one parent decides they want to match the stars. Oh, no, stars don't match. I'm sorry, we can't take this any further. And yet the couple are getting on very well. I think the misunderstanding is here that, one, you don't know how good the person is at reading the stars and the horoscopes. If you go to 3 or 4 different people, the chances are you may get 3 or 4 different results. It's then questionable, like psychics. How accurate are psychics? So I think a lot of it's playing on the mind. There's common sense, but they twist. They will ask you questions and then they will repeat the same thing back to you, but in a different way. I'm not saying that all astrologers are like that, but, you know, I have come across situations where that is the case, and I think they're just really there picking on vulnerable people and exploiting them.
Okay, that was Parag Bhargava from the Suman Marriage Bureau. Thank you, Parag. I've had a text in on 81869, and it says, Shazia, astrology, like religion, is a man-made construct, both open to interpretation. So me, personally, I refuse to believe in either. Astrology is for weak-minded people who willingly allow others to control their lives. Now, do you agree with this? Is astrology for weak-minded people? You heard Parag say there that he feels astrology is often for the vulnerable. Now, I don't feel particularly vulnerable or vulnerable at all, but I can't lie, I did check the star sign of my partner after our very first date, and I thought, okay, that's good, we're compatible. Now, I'm not sure I'd always live by that, but then it was positive, so then I was okay. Now, does astrology have an impact on your life, how you live day to day? Have you used astrology for naming your children or when buying a house or signing important documents? I want to hear from you. Get in touch. You can text me on 81869 or call me on 03459 440 445.
BBC Asian Network.
जो तेरी खातिर तड़पे पहले से ही क्या उसे तड़पाना ओ जालिमा जो तेरे इश्क में बहका पहले से ही क्या उसे बहकाना ओ जालिमा जो तेरी खातिर तड़पे पहले से ही क्या उसे तड़पाना ओ जालिमा जो तेरे इश्क में बहका पहले से ही क्या उसे बहकाना ओ जालिमा आंखें मरहबा बातें मरहबा मैं सौ मर्तबा दीवाना हुआ मेरा ना रहा जब से दिल मेरा तेरे हुस्न का निशाना हुआ जिसकी हर धड़कन तू हो ऐसे दिल को क्या धड़काना ओ जालिमा जो तेरी खातिर तड़पे पहले से ही क्या उसे तड़पाना ओ जालिमा तेरी नजदीकियों का इत्र तू घोल दे मैं ही क्यों इश्क जाहिर करूं तू भी कभी बोल दे
सांसों में तेरी नजदीकियों का इत्र तू घोल दे जाहिर करूं तू भी कभी बोल दे
लेके जान ही जाएगा मेरी कातिल हर तेरा बहाना हुआ
तुझसे ही शुरू तुझ पे ही खत्म मेरे प्यार का फसाना हुआ
शम्मा है तो याद रखना मैं भी हूँ परवाना ओ जालिमा जो तेरी खातिर तड़पे पहले से ही क्या उसे तड़पाना ओ जालिमा ओ जालिमा क्यों जालिमा मैं कहलाई
Tonight on BBC Asian Network.
What's crack-a-lacking?
Mim Shake.
Every single Thursday night, when I step into the BBC Asian Network, it's not just about the music, it's not just about the tunes.
Asian Network's a platform, you just got to utilise that.
We usually break things down. We like to debate, we like to conversate.
I do have this responsibility that I can help normalise the image of a turban and beard.
If you know me and you've seen me in real life, you know I've got a very big mouth.
I have a talk for England.
Mim Shake.
I feel like coming into the studio, coming into the show, it's so liberating. It's the best feeling ever.
How many people have got something to say and don't say it? I'm proud to be Asian, man.
Yeah. Tonight, from 9.
On BBC Asian Network.
You're listening to me, Shazia Wan, on the BBC Asian Network's Big Debate. Now, today I'm asking, does astrology have a negative impact on people's lives? Has it had a negative impact on your life? Or, the flip side, has it helped you find your soulmate, find the perfect home? Do you live your life by it? I remember reports from years ago, and they've never been confirmed, and I think it was back in 2006, where we heard that Aishwarya Rai had been advised to marry a mango tree, otherwise her marriage to Abhishek Bachchan wouldn't succeed, and that she needed to marry this mango tree so that he would have a happy, healthy and successful life. Well, they're still together. We don't know if she definitely did that or not. But I think the reports were enough to get people talking about it. And we're back at that point again, where we've seen the president of Sri Lanka, Maithripala Sirisena, have an astrologer arrested because he predicted the president's death. What are your thoughts on this? Text me 81869 or call me on 03459 440 445. I'd like to go back to Raju Pandya, who is a Hindu priest. Good morning, Raju.
Yeah, good morning.
Now,
thanks once again for giving me a second input, yeah?
So before that track, you heard Parag on from the Suman Marriage Bureau, and he said, look, Shazia, astrology is for vulnerable people. He said it's nonsense that people rule out eligible matches because maybe their name doesn't start with the right letter. And I know you believe in astrology. Do you think that there's a science to astrology?
Well, let me explain. We mustn't mock astrology. It's a skill. It's an art, yeah? It's one that goes back many, many thousands of years ago, which goes into the Egyptians and the Chinese dynasty as well. What I'm trying to say is that astrology, done by someone who knows what they're doing, can predict an outcome up to about 80 to 85% correct. Now, that person must have a tremendous amount of knowledge in mathematics and astronomy. However, Parag is right to some extent that there are a lot of hoaxes around who think they know what they're doing, but they don't. And we have people who try and predict other people's future by looking at their star signs and the date and time of birth. But if they get a date and time of birth slightly wrong, sorry, the time, not the date, the time, then that prediction is going to be incorrect. And Parag is right that the letters of the Rashis that they have been told not to marry or not to sort of do certain things or buy a car will be wrong. So they can sort of completely ignore that. But astrology is not meant to bring about negative impact in people's life. It's not about vulnerable. It's not about people to be scared of. There are many people out there who are benefiting from true predictions of astrology, right? And I would laugh my head off, God help this person who's predicted the president's death, but if anything was to happen to the president, it'd shut people up to say that, look, this guy knows exactly what he was talking about. And many predictions in this world have come true from the astrologers, but I also say the same thing, that if the astrologers are that good, why didn't they predict the tsunami? Why didn't they predict the crash of the world's finance market back in 2010?
I mean, maybe some did, and we didn't hear about it. Raju, let me read a text that I've got in on 81869. I think you'll find this interesting. And it says, Shazia, some cultures and religions are totally unaware of astronomy, but live happy and successful and liberating lives. So how can anything to do with this be true?
Well, that is a nice way of saying that ignorance is bliss, yeah? People who don't look at astronomy or astrology, right, do carry out normal day of life, but they do have incidences.
I'm sorry, but I don't think that that's ignorance.
And
okay.
There are incidents happens in their life which are positive and incidents which happen which are negative, which they are not aware of, but it could have been predicted if it was under the right realm of mathematics or astrology. But because they don't take any notice of it, they carry on with their life, in which many people in the modern day do, as I said before, that when a person is marrying someone, they don't look at the astrology, and everything works out perfectly, as Parag says. But there are many who have looked at astrology, and their life has become hell.
I'm sorry, but so when you spoke earlier, I was really surprised. I agreed with a lot of what you said. You're one of I haven't really met Hindu priests who are that progressive. So I would agree with most of what you say. But then I don't think that you have all these stats about it's 85% true. But I don't know where you can get these statistics from. I don't know how. I'm sorry, but there would be no way in which I would actually believe or even want to know about astrology, because even as Parag mentioned, he did say that astrology is for vulnerable people, but he said that he said he believes in it, but there are misunderstandings within it. The thing is, I don't believe in the subject as a whole. He said that, if someone is Manglik, actually it's okay because the other star can neutralize it. And to myself, I was thinking I don't think that I would ever be able to believe in something like that, something that I have absolutely no control over. Because I have friends and I have family who rely very heavily on priests who on astrologers, and who tell them things so two of my friends who came from India to study here with me were told that, you know what, when you go, you're going to come back in 3 months because you won't like it. But they're still here. They were told their grandmother isn't feeling well. They were told, you need to go to a forest really far away and bury an apple. They did that, but their grandmother is still unwell. So there are all these things that I think are superstition. To me, astrology is superstition, and it's something that I just won't be able to believe in.
You are quoting a very few examples where unfortunately it hasn't gone according to how you feel or how you saw it.
Probably I'm quoting anecdotes
that you do understand some aspect of astrology, even though it's a minute bit, right? But overall, astrology is a big topic, right? And we really do need to sort of try and understand exactly what it's all about before we try and make a determination whether it's for vulnerable or whether it's things a negative aspect in people's life. It has changed people's life out there considerably, and we're ignoring that fact, So astrology does play an important part.
In a lot of places, a lot of people have told me that when I say, I don't believe in it, they're like, no, the energy is there. It doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not. And that's I don't agree with that, because then you're telling me that there is no way I can have a debate with you, because no matter what I say, I'm the ignorant one, because I don't believe that the energy is there, but it's always there. That's the thing. I don't believe that it is there because I don't see it. If I don't see it, then I'm just going to trust myself, and I don't think I'd be able to trust someone else telling me to do something else.
Anisha, can I ask you?
Yeah, I think you believe something when you experience it and it works for you. If you really look at astrology, it's an answer of yes or no. It's going to happen or it's not going to happen. And so that immediately puts the stakes at 50-50. Now, if the person, when somebody goes to an astrologer, if they are vulnerable, they want to hear good news. A lot of astrologers will give them good news, hoping that this is going to work out and it's going to happen. And if it does happen, suddenly there's the belief in astrology and then they will follow astrology. If it doesn't happen, then immediately the trust is removed and they won't use astrology again. Your text mentions that lots of communities don't believe in it. We have astrology horoscopes in newspapers, and I think a high percentage of people, if they see horoscopes in the newspaper, they will read it. And if it goes well for them, if that horoscope reading was actually true or seemed to work out according to their life that day, then they will have more of a belief in it.
Yeah.
So it's
I would agree with you, but you said that it's 50-50. Now, if there's like a 50-50 chance, then I mean, what's the point? Like, then I could just say anything and be like, oh yeah, there's like a 50% chance it's true, so it's fine.
Anisha, would you never read your horoscope in a magazine or, a newspaper? Would you never do that and think, oh, I wonder if that's going to happen today? Because I do that quite often in the morning, pick up the paper and I will have a look. I won't live my day by it, but, it'll be a consideration.
I have been tempted to look, but most of the time I actually stop myself from looking, because then I feel like if I do read it, then that's going to be at the back of my head. And I don't know how to explain this. I feel like it will be true because I make it true, because I will act in that way to make it true.
Yeah, that's the point I made, that when you have an element of doubt and somebody puts an idea in your head, then you suddenly start working your life around that. So if your horoscope says that today you are going to meet a tall, dark, handsome stranger and love is in the limelight for you, you might meet your boss who's a tall, dark, handsome stranger in some respect and suddenly think, oh, am I supposed to have a relationship with him? This is the tall, dark guy that's come into my life today.
Now, that's taken it a bit far, though, but I would like my horoscope to say that every day about tall, dark, handsome strangers. But let me bring in Priya Bhavnani, who's a guest joining me from London. Good morning, Priya. Welcome to the Big Debate.
Hi, good morning.
Now, do you know any people close to you, any friends, family, that have been affected in a negative way by astrology? Or do you think it's a good thing to check your star signs and, look into things?
I have lots of examples of people who are affected in ways that are very unhelpful and unproductive. But what I would like to shed light on is that I do believe there is some science to astrology, because the moon's gravitational pull, if it can impact the immensity of our waters, our oceans, with the tides, then we are 70% water. But nevertheless, I'm not convinced that we as a race have developed the physiology, or we have the physiology to fully comprehend what the impact of these celestial bodies is on us. One example that I would like to share, which is being very, very powerful and unsettling in my experience, is that of my charity work in India. So I work with a charity called Paint Our World, which I founded. It works with children on streets, railway station platforms, who've endured unimaginable abuse, rape, becoming orphaned. And in conversations, I've often been told that, it's just in the stars of the children. This is why they were raped, or this is why they were abused. And that really rattles me, that we would choose to give responsibility of heinous acts that happen because of socioeconomic conditions to some faraway celestial bodies, as compared to take that responsibility on ourselves as a society to problem solve and find solutions to it. So I argue that we really need a doing mechanism as a people and a society, and not a predictive mechanism like astrology to evolve into more meaningful problem solving. And even if there is, according to the believers, a message or a science in its predictive ability, if good is going to happen, let it surprise you. And if bad is going to happen, why lose the present moment that is better than that, or good, in anticipation of the bad? Because if I am told that something unpleasant is going to happen to me, I'm definitely going to lose the present calm that I feel.
Now, I think when we're talking about these heinous acts, of course, that's an extreme example, but a relevant one nonetheless. But I think there isn't the issue there of people having to take more accountability for things happening in their lives.
Absolutely. What is very unsettling is in India, in all my work and all my interactions socially as well, a lot of people who have the most tragic things happen to them, such as women who are being raped, are being told by many people, come up with this answer that, oh, it was in their stars, it was meant to be. And that is not a way that society responds to a situation that, finds solutions. Because the problem here is really not in our stars. It's in ourselves as a society and in our socio-economic and cultural conditioning.
I've had a tweet in at BBC Asian Network from Auntie G, and she says, "We don't believe in any mumbo-jumbo, astrology or voodoo." End of. I've got a Facebook message in from Omar Ahmed who said, if astrology was real, then surely they would all be extremely wealthy and extremely lucky. When was the last time an astrologer won the lottery? I don't know. That would be difficult to answer. But the most famous astrologer I can probably think of is Sandeep Kochar in India. Now, I remember reading reports recently that he predicted a Donald Trump presidential victory months and months before Donald Trump became president. And in India, they've actually got awards for the best astrologer in the country. And Sandeep won an award for sort of Nostradamus of the Year award. They're awarding their astrologers with this kudos, with this glory, because so many people in our communities do live their life by this. Let me bring in Kamal, who's calling in from the West Midlands. Good morning, Kamal. Welcome to the Big Debate.
Thank you. Good morning.
Have you ever consulted an astrologer?
Well, it tends to happen more through my mum or my wife. But yes, we do it often, and it kind of seems natural. I'm kind of from a background where some of my family, my late uncle, they were actually people who did astrology not as a profession, more of a hobby, hand reading and such. My late Nanuji was a fantastic hand reader. My mother also is quite good at it. She doesn't go out of her way to do it, but if someone says, could you look at their hand, she will oblige. I think, obviously, I've got years and years of experience of it, and I think what it is, it's more when they do a personal reading. I've had readings done where the person has established a fact which only possibly myself and my wife knew, and that was based on them looking at the astrology. And I think it actually is a science. You are going to get charlatans who are obviously going to try to make a quick buck out of this. That's human nature. But I think if someone's genuine and they're actually using the science of astrology, because when I've seen the priest actually carry out the calculation, it seems something, there's a lot of mathematics involved. And then it's the matter of interpretation, which is the important thing. Predicting Trump is not such a thing that would impress me, because I actually thought Trump would win. I think I might have even mentioned it to Neil on one of the shows. I think it's more important when they do a personal reading, and I think we use it as guidance.
There's a lot of film stars, some of our famous Bollywood stars.
Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan, Saif Ali Khan, cricketers, politicians.